I am tired. That's what happens when you stay up till 2 a.m. because you're worried about Mrs. Raymond and Droid and possibly Droid getting killed. So you stay up and read the whole book. And this is what you look like after 6 hours of sleep. But you've got stuff to do. You finish the book. You want to talk about it before you can move on to the next book. That's your rule. So welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina, Kristina. This is where we read books, talk about books, no special effects, no theme music, no fancy stuff here. And if you could please hit the like and subscribe, I would appreciate it. I need more likes. I need more subscribers. I know I will never, ever, ever be monetized. Ever. I might be dead before this channel gets monetized. But, because you have to have like 4,000 watch hours and over 1,000 subscribers plus. I have 100 watch hours. On a monthly basis, it's about 100. So anyways, and there's over 2,000 videos, so they're out there. So anyways, like I said, alright, so we have 3 plot lines, 2 of which merge at the end. So technically there's 2 plot lines. There's 3 strings, and 2 strings merge at the end, and 1 string is a totally separate thing. And Leaphorn is here for 1 whole page. Not even a whole page. 3 paragraphs. I was thinking, we haven't seen Leaphorn at all this book. Page 316. 1 page. So, Bernie's got some issues here. And the last paragraph of the book, they're gonna think about stuff. Nothing specific said. No specific anything. They're gonna think about stuff. That's it. No specifics. So, Bernie spends most of the book worried about her mom. Her mom is headed to Dementiaville. And having been there, done that, there's at some point where it gets a little too much for you and you need help. And maybe they need a nursing home. Because at some point it will get too much for one person to handle by themselves. Especially when the person starts to forget who you are. And eventually the degradation. I mean, I've seen it. Other members of my family have seen it more than I have. I've seen the forgetting stuff with several members. But one family member in particular, I mean, she forgot you. At one point she goes, "We're family, aren't we?" And months later, no clue. No clue who anybody was. And by that point, we'd forgotten how to use utensils. Our organs had started to malfunction. We forgot how to use them. We forgot how to chew. We forgot how to swallow. We forgot how to... all stuff. And we ended up starving to death. This one nursing home, my other relative, if they've noticed she's dehydrated, blah, 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 they give her stuff. But the other nursing home was told not to do anything. So she starved. The one relative starved to death. And the other relative, well, she's still there. She's still there mentally. She still knows who people are. So I give her credit for that, because my relative was in the 80s, and the other relative is in her 90s, and she's still there. She still knows who people are. So that's pretty good. And they still give her insurance, stuff like that. But anyways, we got off track here. But like a lot of the book, Bernie is worried about her mom. And we need to find people to help us with mom. And Darlene, the sister, and Chee, they've been rotating shifts. They've had this neighbor come in, and they've had this other person come in, and everybody spend time. And the mother forgets a lot, and blah blah blah. She just ate, but she just wanted to eat. She decided they hadn't had lunch yet, and they had just had breakfast or whatever. So there's a lot of the book is worried about the mother, and I've been there, done that. So then we have the second storyline, or third, or fourth, or fifth. The second storyline is Mrs. Raymond is receiving care. Darlene is her home health person that comes in once a day or once every couple of days, make sure she's getting her meds, make sure she's eating, blah blah blah. But the woman is still almost 100% there. She's just physically starting to arthritis and all that kind of stuff. So she needs a little extra help. And Mrs. Raymond has her grandson, Andrew, but he's also known as Droid. And I don't like it when Sally and John call him Andrew and Jack and Jane call him Droid. It's the same character. So all of my notes, I wrote Andrew/Droid the whole book. So Andrew has a little alcohol and drug problem, and he wants to get clean. However, he was conned. Major, huge, big-time conned. These people convinced him that he needed treatment, which he does. And they convinced him that they would give him the treatment for free. And what they are doing is scamming Medicaid and Medicare. They're filing claims that for stuff they don't do and don't perform. And they gather all these people up with their little preaching. They put them on a bus. They hike them to this hotel where instead of treating them for their addictions, they feed their addictions. Like, oh, you're going through here's a case of beer. They don't help them at all. They were just milking Medicare and Medicaid. And then they dump them at other places after a couple of days at their hotel. And there's no counselors, there's nothing. It's a whole 100% sham. But I guess I got ahead of myself there because Andrews decides he wants to get help and he's going to get on this bus and go. Well, Mrs. Raymond is there when the whole thing happens, and she decides, because Raymond told them he was 18. Raymond is 17. So Mrs. Raymond wants to go with him to make sure things are okay. So Mrs. Raymond signs up to go. And it takes them a long bus ride to get to this place. Very long bus ride. And they make friends with the driver. And the driver insinuates stuff every so often because they stop at all the rest areas and stuff. And, Mrs. Raymond just left. She didn't really take much with her. And they get to this place and they confiscate cell phones. They don't want people communicating with anybody. None of the phones in the place work. It just really bothers me tremendously. And then Raymond goes missing. Andrew goes missing. And Mrs. Raymond wants to find him. And they won't let her out of the hotel. They won't let her look. During the evening, he's missing. He's been missing for 24 hours. I'm afraid he's dead. I'm stressing over him. And it's chapter after chapter after chapter of all this stressing. And finally, Mrs. Raymond gets another person to help her assist her. And then she gets communication out to the relatives, who, when Darlene discovers that Mrs. Raymond is missing and Andrew is missing, she starts calling Mrs. Raymond's relatives. And it really pissed me off that the daughter, Victoria, was like, oh, I did not give a fig, did not care, blah, blah, blah. But then after 24 hours, or 48 hours, or 72 hours, when the mother still hasn't shown up, and the grandson hasn't still shown up, which was her son, the daughter's son, still hasn't shown up, and they're calling and texting, and there's no response to any of those calls, then she gets upset. And then Greg, the husband, decides him and Darlene will go look. But that's like further down the line. Meanwhile, Chee and Bree are dealing. Bree is still stressing about the mother issue, and Chee has his boss has a heart attack and spends the book in the hospital, and they're thinking about promoting Chee to captain. In the meantime, there's supposedly, maybe, sorta, kinda, we're not sure yet, maybe, kinda, sorta, maybe, if we're not sure, we may be getting a visit from this dignitary. And then it takes a couple of pages, and then it reveals that the Secretary of State may or may not be coming to their little town. And this person may or may not be coming, and may or may not be coming, and may or may not be coming, and then eventually doesn't come. But they start making all these plans and roadblocks and ceremonies and security, and they do all this stuff for most of the book. They're doing all this planning, they're retoting schedules, they're doing all this other stuff. And then there's this group who turns out to be more of a cult following. They believe all the stuff that this guy is preaching to them. They're against uranium mining that's going on in the area, and they want to do protesting when the secretary is there. And it's CUSP is the abbreviation. I forget what the hell. Citizens United something. I forget. But I remember it's CUSP. And so they've got all this going on. So then Bernie goes out to check. Alright, we're back up a bit. In the beginning of the book, the very first page of the book, this guy is jogging. And he's jogging down this road, and he sees a dead body. So it kind of it takes a couple of chapters. We got to go through the Bernie stuff. We got to go through the Mrs. Raymond stuff. And they finally get a new officer to go out there and check it out. And it turns out, yeah, there's a body there. And then Chee spends a couple of chapters out there waiting for the FBI to show up. And they finally show up. And they don't tell him much. And he's frustrated that they don't tell him much. And it's all hot. And he's sweating and blah, blah, blah. And he's still got to deal with the secretary's visit. And he's got to arrange all the stuff and schedule all the stuff and blah, 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 blah. And then Bernie is sent out to the cult's temporary headquarters, because the people that own the land are suspicious about some stuff. So stuff goes down there with Bernie. And we're still waiting on Mrs. Raymond and her son. What's going on there? And Darlene worries about her boyfriend and whether or not he actually cares about it, because he's not responding to any of her text or calls. So she's stressing over that while she's stressing over Mrs. Raymond the whole book. So that's basically your story here. I didn't mix them. You have the Mrs. Raymond and the Andrew story, and what happens to them at this fake hotel, supposedly giving treatment for alcohol and drug abuse, but not. You have the Bernie's mother situation, and you have the I'm going to visit your area Secretary of State. Well, maybe not. And you have the cult situation that's going on. So those are your threads of your story there. And that's what it's like to talk about a book after you've had 6 hours of sleep because you stayed up all night reading the book because you were worried about Andrew and Mrs. Droid, and you were worried severely that Andrew was going to end up with a knife in his back or something in some alley in Phoenix. So to find out what happens with Bernie's mom and Darlene and her boyfriend and Darlene and Craig finding Mrs. Raymond and maybe finding Droid and what happened to Droid and what's going on with the Secretary of State and all the planning for the Secretary of State and what happens with Chee's boss. There's a lot of open threads here. And I was surprised that the book just ended. And I'm like, huh? Where's the next page? Excuse me. I need a little more information here, but it just ends. So we don't know. They're thinking about it. What can you do? So you have a good day. And I will try and wake up. Have a good one.